thought that he was going to kiss me. Instead, he said very quietly, "Do you know what? I'm going to kill you."
In the annals of American crime, few names evoke the same chilling dread and perplexing fascination as that of Ted Bundy. He was not the monstrous figure of caricature, lurking in shadows with malevolent intent. Instead, he presented a captivating facade. Handsome, charismatic, intelligent, a man who could easily blend into any social setting. Yet, beneath this veneer of normalcy festered a darkness so profound, so utterly devoid of empathy, that it unleashed an unprecedented wave of terror across multiple states in the 1970s. His reign of murder, abduction, and sexual violence left an indelible scar on the American psyche, forever altering how a generation viewed trust, charm, and the hidden evil that can reside within the most seemingly ordinary of individuals. This is the story of Theodore Robert Bundy, a man who perfected the art of deception, becoming one of history's most prolific and infamous serial killers. The roots of Ted Bundy's monstrous pathology remain a subject of intense debate among psychologists and criminologists. Born Theodore Robert Cowell on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont, he grew up believing his grandparents were his parents, and his mother, Louise Cowell, was his older sister. This fundamental deception at the heart of his family life has often been cited as a potential contributing factor to his later psychological development, fostering a sense of betrayal and detachment. He was later told the truth, but the full impact of this revelation on his formative years is speculative. The family eventually moved to Tacoma, Washington, where his mother married John Bundy, and Ted was adopted, taking the Bundy surname. Throughout his adolescence and early adulthood, Bundy projected an image of a promising, if somewhat enigmatic, young man. He was known for his intelligence, albeit one that he sometimes failed to fully apply. He attended various universities, including the University of Puget Sound and the University of Washington, where he studied Chinese and psychology. He dated, had friends, and even engaged in political activities, working for a time with the Washington State Republican Party. His peers and acquaintances rarely perceived anything overtly sinister about him. He was often described as charming, articulate, and even endearing. This seemingly unremarkable existence was a carefully constructed mask, one that would later serve him in the most horrifying ways imaginable as he lured his unsuspecting victims. The period spanning 1974 to 1978 marked the terrifying peak of Bundy's murderous spree, a period characterized by a chilling escalation in the frequency and brutality of his crimes. His initial victims were predominantly young women, often college students, attractive and intelligent, fitting a particular type that seemed to fuel his perverse desires. His method was insidious. He preyed on compassion and trust. He would often feign injury, a sprained arm, a broken leg, or impersonate an authority figure, such as a police officer, to lure his targets into a false sense of security. Once he had them isolated, away from witnesses and public view, his charm would dissipate, replaced by overwhelming violence. The binding, the sexual assault, the bludgeoning, and the strangulation became his horrifying signature. His reign of terror began to unfold with alarming regularity in the Pacific Northwest, primarily in Washington and Oregon. The early months of 1974 saw a string of disappearances that initially perplexed law enforcement. Linda Ann Healy, a promising student at the University of Washington, vanished from her basement apartment in January. Her disappearance was followed by others: Donna Gail Manson in March, Susan Elaine Rancourt in April, Brenda Carroll Ball in May, and Georgianne Hawkins in June. The striking similarities in the victims, all young, attractive, and disappearing from college campuses or near residences, hinted at a terrifying pattern. However, without bodies, establishing a definitive link between the cases proved challenging for the fragmented jurisdictions. The first major breakthrough, albeit a tragic one, came in March 1975, when skeletal remains of Linda Ann Healy and others were discovered near Lake Sammamish State Park in Issaquah, Washington. These discoveries, often found in remote wooded areas, confirmed the worst fears. A serial killer was at large. The recovery of the remains provided crucial forensic evidence, but the perpetrator remained elusive. The media began to draw connections, and the public became increasingly aware that a predator was stalking young women in their communities. Descriptions of a man with a dark-colored Volkswagen Beetle, sometimes with an arm in a sling, began to circulate, sparking both fear and an uneasy vigilance among students and residents. As the investigations intensified in Washington, Bundy abruptly shifted his hunting grounds. In the autumn of 1974, he moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, ostensibly to attend law school at the University of Utah. However, his academic pursuits were merely a cover for his escalating predatory behavior. The pattern of disappearances resumed with alarming speed. Melissa Smith, Laura Aim, Nancy Baird, Deborah Kent all vanished in the span of a few months in Utah and Colorado. The geographic shift confounded investigators in the Pacific Northwest, who were still grappling with their ongoing cases. The lack of interstate communication and centralized databases common today meant that the distinct but connected reign of terror was not immediately recognized as the work of a single individual. It was in Utah that Bundy finally made a critical mistake, leading to his first arrest. In August 1975, he attempted to abduct Carol Duranch in Murray, Utah, by impersonating a police officer. Duranch, however, bravely fought back and managed to escape, providing a detailed description of her attacker and his distinct Volkswagen Beetle. Later that month, a Utah Highway Patrol officer on routine patrol spotted a VW Beetle matching the description given by Duranch. The car was driven by Ted Bundy. A search of his vehicle revealed a ski mask, a crowbar, handcuffs, and various other tools that could be used in abductions. Though he denied any involvement in the disappearances, the evidence was compelling. Bundy was charged with aggravated kidnapping for the attempted abduction of Carol Duranch. His trial became a public spectacle, largely due to his charismatic demeanor and self-assured denials. Despite his eloquent defense, Duranch's courageous testimony and the circumstantial evidence led to his conviction in March 1976. He was sentenced to 1 to 15 years in the Utah State Prison. This initial conviction, however, was just the beginning of his legal saga and a testament to his cunning and audacious escapes.
His second and far more infamous escape occurred in December 1977 from the Garfield County Jail in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. This time, Bundy meticulously planned his breakout. He used a hacksaw blade smuggled into the jail to cut a hole in the ceiling of his cell. Through this small opening, he climbed into the air vent system, navigated through the ducts, and dropped into the apartment of the chief jailer, who was away for the Christmas holidays. He changed into civilian clothes, walked out the front door, and vanished into the night, leaving behind a note of taunt. This escape was a profound embarrassment for law enforcement and sent a renewed wave of panic across the country. The hunt was on for one of America's most dangerous fugitives. After his second escape, Bundy embarked on a cross-country journey of murder that would lead him to Florida, a state far from his previous hunting grounds and a place where he was largely unknown. He arrived in Tallahassee, Florida, in January 1978, a seemingly anonymous new face in a vibrant college town. His anonymity, combined with his inherent charm, allowed him to resume his predatory activities with chilling speed. On the night of January 15, 1978, he launched a brutal attack on the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. In a rampage lasting only minutes, he assaulted 4 young women as they slept. Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy were bludgeoned and strangled to death. Karen Chandler and Kathy Kleiner were severely beaten but survived, providing crucial descriptions that would later help identify their attacker. The savagery of the Chi Omega attack horrified the nation, particularly due to the seemingly random and frenzied nature of the violence. It was a stark departure from his more calculated previous methods, suggesting a further descent into depravity. Just hours after the Chi Omega murders, Bundy claimed another victim. Cheryl Thomas, a student living a few blocks away, was severely beaten and sexually assaulted in her duplex. She also survived, albeit with permanent injuries. The swiftness and proximity of these attacks confirmed that a serial killer of extreme violence was loose in Tallahassee. The FBI was called in, and a massive manhunt ensued. Less than a month later, on February 9, 1978, Bundy committed his final known murder. Kimberly Leach, a 12-year-old middle school student, disappeared from her school in Lake City, Florida. This victim, significantly younger than his typical profile, marked a disturbing new escalation in his depravity. Her disappearance and the eventual discovery of her body in a remote area solidified the public's and law enforcement's understanding of the escalating threat he posed. Bundy's final arrest came on February 15, 1978, in Pensacola, Florida. He was pulled over by a police officer who noticed a stolen car. Bundy, still armed and dangerous, struggled with the officer but was eventually subdued. This time, there would be no more escapes. The combination of eyewitness accounts from the Chi Omega survivors, the discovery of his stolen vehicle, and later crucial forensic evidence, including bite marks left on Lisa Levy's body, sealed his fate. The bite mark evidence, though controversial in some forensic circles, was pivotal in his conviction. The trials that followed were sensational, drawing unprecedented media attention. Bundy, ever the manipulator, often sought to represent himself, showcasing his law school background and attempting to charm the juries and the public. His self-representation was a bizarre spectacle, alternating between confident legal arguments and delusional ramblings. He questioned witnesses, cross-examined detectives, and even proposed to his girlfriend, Carol Ann Boone, during one of the trials, aiming to portray himself as a normal, loving individual. Despite his theatrical performances, the evidence against him was overwhelming. In July 1979, he was convicted of the murders of Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy and the attempted murders of Karen Chandler and Kathy Kleiner. He received 2 death sentences. The following year, in 1980, he was also convicted of the murder of Kimberly Leach and received another death sentence. The serial nature of his crimes, spanning multiple states, and the sheer brutality involved ensured that the maximum penalty would be sought. Throughout the years on death row, Bundy continued to play mind games, offering tantalizing hints about other unsolved cases in exchange for delays in his execution. He became a subject of intense psychological study, interviewed by numerous experts, including Dr. Al Carlisle, Dr. Dorothy Lewis, and FBI profiler Robert Keppel. These interviews revealed a man utterly consumed by his sadistic fantasies, driven by a perverse desire for power and control over his victims. He confessed to dozens of murders, some of which remain unconfirmed, but provided details that linked him to many more disappearances and deaths across the country. His confessions, however, were often self-serving, used as bargaining chips to prolong his life. His claims of being addicted to violence, describing it as an escalating compulsion, offered a chilling glimpse into the mind of a psychopathic killer. He spoke of the process of grooming victims, the thrill of the hunt, and the ultimate act of domination.
Yet even in his confessions, a disturbing lack of genuine remorse was evident. His apologies, when offered, seemed more performative than heartfelt, designed to elicit sympathy or manipulate those around him. The execution of Ted Bundy on January 24, 1989, by electric chair in the state of Florida brought an end to one of the most terrifying chapters in American criminal history. Outside the Florida State Prison, crowds cheered and celebrated, a testament to the profound fear and anger he had instilled in a nation. His death offered a measure of closure, though never truly erasing the pain for the victims' families, who had endured decades of uncertainty, trials, and appeals. The legacy of Ted Bundy extends beyond the sheer number of his victims. His case fundamentally reshaped our understanding of serial murder, highlighting that evil does not always conform to stereotypical appearances. He forced law enforcement agencies to reevaluate their investigative methods, emphasizing the crucial need for interstate communication and centralized databases to track crimes across jurisdictions. The term serial killer gained widespread usage, partly due to the media coverage of his sprees. Furthermore, Bundy's case underscored the importance of vigilance and skepticism, particularly for young women. His ability to use charm and feigned helplessness as weapons served as a stark warning. Trust, while essential for society, must be tempered with caution. The image of the stranger in the white van became a potent symbol of danger, but Bundy demonstrated that the most dangerous strangers could be the ones who seemed the most approachable, the most trustworthy, the most normal. The story of Ted Bundy is a chilling testament to the banality of evil, the capacity for profound darkness to reside behind a pleasant facade. His crimes stand as a permanent scar on the landscape of American true crime, a reminder that the true horror often lies not in the grotesque, but in the insidious deceit that leads victims to their final, terrifying moments. His name remains synonymous with terror, a cautionary tale echoing from the 1970s, urging eternal vigilance against the wolves in sheep's clothing.